Hi everyone, for today's art class we're going to need some watercolours. You can grab a mixing palette if you like, or an old plate, an old piece of plastic, maybe an ice cream lid, something like that. We need a variety of paintbrushes. We need an eraser and a pencil. We also need some watercolour paper. And I've got my usual 2 jars of water. We also need some water-based ink, but if you don't have water-based ink, you can use some watered down acrylic paints. You can use white to replace the white that I'm using, but you can also use a variety of colours. Today is all about just giving you some ideas and going for it. And I also have a white gel pen. These are the best ones that I have found. They're called Uniball Signo, and they come out in a great consistency. So that's my personal choice, but you can use whatever ones you have. Let's get started. All right, what I'm going to do is draw the first feather very darkly, but you won't be drawing it darkly. I'm just drawing it darkly to show you the process. So pretty much we just need to draw. I could probably fit 2 on this actually, so I'll go a bit to the left. Just draw a straight line down, and just down the bottom, just extend it out just a little, just like that. And then out of the top, you do kind of like a rounded shape, and they don't have to be matching, because if you take a good look at feathers, you can see that the feathers are not symmetrical. They're not the same on both sides. So that's our basic shape. Then a lot of feathers have some parts where they're actually joined. So you just do some V shapes like that. And the same again, you don't do them symmetrically, because feathers are not always symmetrical, and very often they're not symmetric. So then you rub that out, and that creates our feather shape that we'll be painting. Now again, remember that it has to be very light, because we don't want to see the pencil marks through the watercolours when we eventually get to paint it. So there we have that. Now, when we're going to pre-wet our feathers before we use watercolour, and when we do that, I need to show you, I'm going to use the pencil and just highlight the area that you need to wet, because ideally we want to leave a little line down here of no paint. So when we wet our feather just down one side, we leave a gap that big, and then we just join it up there. So all this part that I'm colouring in now, this is the actual part that you are going to wet. So you can see that I'm leaving that little strip down there. And then when you do the other side, you're going to do the same. You wet all there. And there we have left a lovely strip where we're not going to let any paint and water get to. So it's kind of like the vein of the feather. So hopefully that's clear enough for you to see the exact spot. And then we can also wet down there as well. Okay, I'm pretty sure you've got the idea. I'll hold that up a little bit closer so you can see. See how we've left the strip down the middle. And there it is, all it's in its entirety. So don't panic if they do cut across, because there's plenty of things that we can do to stop that from happening, and it doesn't really matter if it does anyway. So that's the area that we're going to wet. So I'm just going to press stop and draw that up again. Okay, so here I have pre-wet one side, and now what I'm going to do is choose a colour, and I'm going to just create some variation in the one colour. So I'm using this nice dark purple colour, and what I'm going to do is just paint where I wet, add a bit more water. Wasn't enough water. And hopefully when I paint down, you'll be able to see where I've left it. So you can see I've gone out a bit, but that does not matter too much. So we're just painting the shape. If you go outside of the line a bit, just make sure that you keep the outside of it in line. Now this is just one way that you can create feathers. You don't have to use the same colour. I'm using the same colour for this one, but there's many, and I'm just going to show you a variety that I've previously painted. I've mixed up some colours, changed it around a bit. I want some variation in this purpley colour, so I'm just leaving some lighter spots. I'm adding a bit more water in some spots. I'm leaving it very dark in other spots. But I'm making sure that I've got that vein coming down the middle there. I want to keep that happening. So I'm using different watercolours today. These were just a great little set that I found at a $2 shop. They weren't $2, they were only $7, I think. But still, they don't work too badly, and they've got a really lovely variety of colours. So I'm just playing with these ones for a little while. Right, so now you can notice that I've only done one side, and what I need to do is just do one side at a time, because we need it to dry and it's less likely to spill over to the other side, so that will help keep the vein happening. Now what I'm going to do is just paint down here as well, and that's kind of like the end of the quill, I guess. And then what I'm going to do, I have this water-based ink, and I'm going to just dip the tip of my paintbrush into that, and I'm just going to add some dots to it. And just watch at how that like spreads out as you do it. So you don't have to do it all the way. I'm making the dots smaller as I go down and closer. And oops, I have to get that one out, I think. Probably come out when it's dry. Okay, and I really like that effect, so I'm going to leave my feather like that, and I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to do the other side. And that's pretty much it for this stage of it. So what I might do is leave this to dry. I'm going to get my other feathers that I've created and show you some of the other feathers. Okay, so this one is a feather that I have just painted the same colour, but I've just done stripes using the water-based ink. This one I've used a variety of colours, dabbed some other colours in while it's wet, and I haven't left the centre vein. I've actually painted that in, put a few dots on. This one I've done a brown colour and put the white ink on top. And remember, you can use acrylic. This one I've done a variety of things. Trying to get that close enough so you can see. This next one I did the same. I must have been in the mood for dots. I quite like that look. This one, similar. I've just done a darker vein down the middle. Here's just a plain purple one that I did nothing to. There's some tiny dots at the very end, and I'm pretty sure I used the white gel pen for that one. This one I've gone over it in white gel just slightly, giving it some detail. And this one is I've used two colours, a brown and a really dark brown, almost black colour, and then I've gone over the top. So as you can see, there's loads of different ways that you can paint them. Now I'm going to press stop, finish this one off, and show you the next step. Okay, so the next step involves pre-wetting again, and pretty much doing exactly the same as we did on the other side. So I'm just going to add some paint to this side, remembering to keep that vein going down the middle. quickly paint that because we still want to add the water-based ink or the watered down acrylic while it's still wet, so it gives that nice spreading effect. And we also need to remember that the feathers have some nice little swirly bits down the bottom too, so I'll paint a little bit closer there. So might bring that down a bit. It's just a matter of playing around with your feather and just seeing what makes it look good. Okay, so remember down the bottom of feathers, they have these little fluffy bits, which are rather cute. Oops. So you just make those up each side and they don't have to be symmetrical again. Okay, I'm going to quickly paint the watercolour ink, water-based ink, sorry, I always say watercolour ink. And that's got a furry bit on it, so you could fleck on top of this, you can do all sorts of things. It's totally up to you what you do. And I'm pretty happy with that side, so what I'm going to do is dry that off with my hairdryer on very low so it doesn't move the paint around, and then I'm going to go to the next step. Okay, so that's that step that I've shown you. Now you are perfectly fine to leave it as is. You can get a larger sheet, you can do a couple of different feathers on it, you can frame those up, they look beautiful framed. But what I'm creating today, I'm showing you how to create a sculpture, basically. So the next stage of this is to cut out around the edge. So I'm not going to show you this in slow motion, I'm going to speed this up. Come on, Glennie. And there we have a really lovely feather. Now, you can leave it like this at this stage, or you can turn it over and you can paint the back the same as you painted the front, or you can paint it differently. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to press stop and I'm going to paint the back. Okay, so here you can see that I've just painted the other side blue and I've taken the water to the very edge. I've done the same as I did in the front down the bottom, but that's taken to the edge down there. So I'm just going to press stop and dry this off and show you the next step in this part. Okay, there it is dried. Now upon reflection, some of that blue has come through to the other side, so I recommend that you use the same colour front and back, but that's a lesson learnt. So with this one, we're going to be doing some white gel pen detail. You can use black pigment ink pen if you like as well, but what I'm going to do, I might zoom in a little bit closer. Can we see that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is just do the vein down the middle. I'm not going to start all the way up. And as you can see, the gel pen doesn't always go on perfectly, and I like that. You can make it go on perfectly if you like, but I like that look that gives it a little raw edge to it, makes it look a little bit natural. And I actually lift my gel pen up to try and create those lines. Maybe that one's a bit too big. So I've created the vein in the middle, and I'm just going to do some patterns. You can do whatever your heart desires on this. That's probably because my paint isn't dry as well as I would like it. I'm just going to do some feather lines going down, and you won't see them all really well. This is just a very quick idea for you to use. You can do a whole heap of different patterns if you like. Maybe some of those I'll do some circles on it. Now you can Google Zen Tangles, Z-E-N, Tangle, and what will come up is a whole heap of patterns that you can do. And these, they're just basically like doodling patterns, really. Now I can do some zigzags. And with this part, it does not have to be perfect. You can make it as perfect or as rough as you like. But the whole idea is to draw a whole heap of patterns on it. So one side we've just got the painted. On this side you can do patterns, or you can do it the same as the front. It doesn't really matter, but I've just chosen to show you using the gel pen just to give you another idea of what you can do with your feathers. So I'm going to press stop now, and I'm going to finish that off and then come back. Okay, and there it is finished. Looks pretty nice, I think, especially with that big variation of colour. So remember, you're not colouring in when you use watercolours. You try and create variations and interest in the coloured areas that you do. So I've got another couple here that I created a couple of days ago. Here's a nice pink one, or red. And here's another blue one, a different shape. And if you look down the bottom here, I've done some little textured pattern at the bottom part of that vein, or that quill bit. I'm not sure what you call that. I think it is just a vein. So, and I've created some little pattern work on the bottom feathers. I'll cut that one out, but you can see that I didn't put any of the feathers joined up together like I have here on this one. So there's a huge variety of things you can do. Now, once you've done this, to do the next step you need some string, so I'll just grab that. Okay, that's it. So the string I'm using is a cotton one, and it's rather a neutral colour. It's very soft. You need something soft because you don't want it tearing your feathers. So what you're going to do is just cut a variety of lengths of string after you've done many of these feathers. Now the reason why we made that a bit angled there, it's a bit out of focus, so when I cut the bottom part it goes out a bit. That's so we can tie something around that and it actually stays on. So very fiddly, but you can trim them after you've done this part. So tie that on. Now if you have yourself a lovely branch, you can double tie it if you like. I just like the effect of leaving it hanging like that. Now I've got a large branch here, which I've already attached a whole heap of my feathers to. And what you do, you tie your feathers around a branch that you've gone out and collected, or you might have had some trimmings. This is from an olive tree, this branch here. And you just attach them all at different lengths. So I'm going to attach this one. Not quite sure where I put it. It's pretty full. Maybe right at the end here. It doesn't really matter even how you attach it. It's totally up to you. Just a couple of ties and then a trim. That's all I've done with all the others. So you tie it and trim it, and then I'm going to show you the finished piece. Okay, and here we have the finished piece, and you can clearly see the benefit of painting both sides because they do tend to spin around. So it's got that up the top. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I really like the look, but what I will do is go back and paint the backs of all of those. So there we have what you can do with a simple watercolored feather. You can create gorgeous pieces of artworks, and you can hang these up. I'm just going to tie some string on the top, and I'm going to end up hanging that up. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the process. If you give this a try, I would love to see what you create. Don't forget, I've got my Facebook page free art class, and you can join that and share any artworks that you've created from my videos. And don't forget, if you've liked what you've seen, to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.